take me over here. Take me over here.
Yeah.
Put me here. I'm like,
Hey,
leave me alone. Let me
I never
fish a
tell
little
you
bit.
where to go. I'm always a go with the flow kind of guy, but I don't do any of the work to move the boat. I'll own that.
Fish more gooder with Tim and Dave.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Good seeing you
raise
again
it
there,
up.
Ryan.
Good to see you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Fish More Gooder podcast. We are here today with Ryan Tucker from Catching Leadership. So, real quick to start this off, we had a pre-call with Ryan and Michael Latham, the CEO of Catching Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about a podcast we wanted to do, and it just turned out that Ryan was going to be down at Lake of the Ozarks fishing 1 week before the big Bass Bash.
Yep. And real quick, Tim, I'm cutting you off already. The Catching Leadership, there is going to be a podcast about that probably shortly right after this one. I think we're on the docket to get it recorded by the end of the week. It's really awesome stuff. Me and Tim are really just starting to learn. And it is how you can use mindfulness and elevating your coaching skills and your leadership skills, but through the analogy of fishing, something everyone watching this knows already and loves doing in our day-to-day life and our free time. So how do you use what you already know through your skills of fishing to really elevate yourself as a leader and a coach to the people around you that you already love, know, and care about? So that's coming up next. I want to get that out up front in the beginning of this video because that is going to be a fun one. And I know, I already know now, Ryan and Michael are going to have homework for us, and it's probably going to lead to another call, probably mid-July. And I've already accepted it, and I'm excited for that one as well. But how's it going there, Ryan?
It's going great. It's good to see you guys. And yeah, you guys are going to have tons of homework. We're going to put it on you for sure.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I will say, Dave, two things. One, that's the fastest you've ever cut me off in a podcast. And two, your whole speech, I was getting ready to just jump into.
Dude, you know what? I was on a tear. I drove from Cleveland today, and I'm like, I'm on one of those high caffeine coffee. I think I had Fairfield Inn Sweets coffee this morning. Followed it up with the Starbucks. I got a cold Dunkin' Donuts about Mansfield, and then I think I had a Monster in Dublin, Ohio. So if you're Ohio, you know exactly the trade. That's a lot of caffeine in about a 2.5 hour drive. I wrecked it today, and I can still feel it from the AMs right now. But hot dang,
It's Friday.
I know
It's Friday.
Woo.
But all right, to the point of this call, though, Ryan's at Lake of the Ozarks. Anyone watching right now who's heading down to the Big Bass Bash next week, they want to know what to throw.
Yep, we got your
You've
scoop
been
for
fishing
you.
it. We got the scoop. So we're going to turn it over to Ryan. What are you doing?
Or
what
what not to throw, or
what not to
the
throw.
time
Fair.
to not come down here. But this lake is, it's people to watch this. This lake is full of fish. It is a fantastic fishery. It's my favorite fishery, especially during the late fall, winter, early spring. A big part of that is that there's a lot of recreational boaters on this lake. And so when you're in a 20-foot, 18-foot bass boat or just going out and doing some fishing, it can get pretty hairy during the summer, but it's my favorite lake. I just think the amount of fish that are in this lake. So we do an annual guys trip, right? And I think there's probably a lot of people out there that do an annual trip around the lakes. And we picked Lake of the Ozarks this year. We picked Bull Shoals last year. And Bull Shoals last year is a phenomenal fishery as well. But we got absolutely hammered with weather. Terrible weather in April. So we were like, all right, let's pick Lake of the Ozarks. Hopefully the weather's better. And as you guys know, because you felt it up north, a little bit further north than we did, is we got hammered with a strong set of storms and a big time cold front. And so for the people listening that understand and look at maps or have been on the lake before, we're staying on the mouth of the Grand Glaze, right? Which is about the 20-mile marker, if you will. And we got down here on Wednesday, and it was incredibly, just the storms had pushed through. It was very post frontal, but I mean, like in the good part of post frontal. So our Wednesday fish, I felt like there was a lot of overcast. There was some wind going on that we could go out and catch them. And some of the guys absolutely did go out and catch them. I had a pretty good day on Wednesday, and I ended up running down. And I'll go through this in terms of like where I fished, because I think it's going to be valuable for the listeners to understand the lake.
Oh, yeah.
But my thought process is when I put in at the Grand Glaze arm is, I mean, it's a lake in itself. And it had dirtied up to a point where I didn't feel comfortable. Water temperature was in the low 50s, and cold, muddy water for me. Like I can't figure that out. And I know people struggle with that. So I was like, I'm going to go chase clean water. But I know at any point this arm can be the best in the lake. And if you get some sun on it and you get rising, water temperatures, like it might be a place to just check out later in the day as you come back. So I ran down to the dam area, I would say 13 to 7 mile marker, and that water temperature was still in the low 50s, and I just chased wind. And so I just was looking for secondary points that were leading back to spawning flats, pretty typical stuff that you do, and I just put a jerk bait in my hand. And I know when we talked before, it was going to be about potentially throwing some big baits that I'll get into.
Yeah.
But I knew what I needed when I saw the storms come through. Yeah. I just needed a bite. I just wanted to go figure out, is there a bite that can be had? And at that time, fishing so much in the winter, I was like, I'm going to throw a jerk bait around and maybe a small little finesse jig. And they were biting pretty good, but I wasn't catching any size. And so when we talk about the big bass bash, like it doesn't matter if you catch 50 and they're all 2-pounders, right? You need to catch, something that's typically over 4 pounds to cash a check. And so I wasn't fishing the big bass bash, and we all get in this scenario where you're like, you know what, I don't care what bites, I just want to feel the tug of the fish. So I went and did that, messed around and talked to the other guys, and some stayed in the dirty water in the Grand Glaze, which was close to the resort, having limited success. And I was catching small fish down by the dam and in the little bit cleaner water. So I will say for the crew that's listening, like when I started on the 13-mile marker, it was, call it 2.5 to 3 feet, like good watercolor, really good watercolor. You can do a lot of things in that watercolor, I feel. And that's where I kind of stuck around. I caught my fish, came back, talked to a lot of guys, and some stayed in the mud. It wasn't very good. Some ventured out a little bit, and they caught a few fish. But we all knew that it was post-frontal. Okay, next day, let's see, we woke up to, 36 degree, and now you're seeing a lot of sun.
Balmy.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of sun, and you're feeling the northeast wind. We're like, wow, we're in for it. Day 2, I ran 44 miles altogether.
Ooh.
And I ran all the way from the Grand Glaze. I fished around down by the dam, and I would say in that anywhere from 13 to 6 mile marker before the Gravois arm. And so people and I know I fished a Gravois a lot this year in the winter time frame, and it's a great arm. And I've got some spots up there that I ran, and I didn't get a bite.
Skunked
and
out.
I didn't get a bite. Like, I didn't get a bite. My partner didn't get a bite. My cousin who's fishing with me. And so I ran back into Indian Creek, and I just tried to go find dirty water. I'm like, is there something that's warming up? And go find something. And when I pulled around the corner, and I hadn't seen very many bass boats, and this is on Thursday, I pull around the corner, and there's 10 boats. Like 10 boats, right? I'm like, okay, something's going on back here. Well, they're crappie fishing and white bass fishing. I'm like, but there's activity. Pull back in there, and we catch 4 non-keeper, right? Below 15-inch fish. But we got action. I'm like, okay, that kind of keyed me in on a little bit of something like, warmer water, things are starting to heat up. So tough day on Thursday. Today we go out, and I don't know if I'm just afraid of the dark water, but there's a gentleman here, Mike, who is like, I'm never going underneath the Grand Glaze Bridge. I'm staying in the mud. I'm going to throw a crankbait. I'm going to throw a spinnerbait. And I feel like I might not catch I could catch 2 or 3 fish today, but I'm going to catch the biggest fish today, right? And he's caught the 2 biggest fish up here.
Oh, and he actually worked out for him?
It worked out for him.
Yeah.
And he hasn't caught many, but he's caught the biggest fish.
Yeah.
And so, like, okay, well, what do? I still run down towards the dam, chase the clean water, go out this morning, and terrible. I mean, it was not good. I mean, I threw the finesse jig. I threw things that you were like thinking that you're going to get around secondary points where fish are going to be. Are they pushing back? You're looking for shad. And it was not good. And so another guy in our group went down there.
Great catch, by the way. That was half dad, half Spider-Man.
And I'm a dad.
Oh man, you didn't even look. You didn't acknowledge the pole. You just whoosh.
It's coming at me. Yeah. She wants to go back out.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, yeah. She's telling you. She's telling you.
Yeah. So we go down there, and another guy's down there, and he fished down by the dam, and we meet up. He got gassed, and we meet up, and it's the bobbing in the water, like what's going on, and we're all crying the blues, like it's terrible down here. So we're like, well, what do we do? Like, well, why don't we just roll up to this area of the lake? So we go past. So for the people that understand this and looking at a map again, you're going to go back up the Osage and you're going to run up and you go past the Grand Glaze. And we were thinking about Hurricane Deck area, which I think Hurricane Deck is, call it 40, 50 mile marker. I don't know. And so we start rolling up and the big boats, the pleasure boats are starting to get out. And I was over the boat ride. I have my 1.5-year-old black lab with me, who's a great boat dog, right? And I've got my partner with me and we're going over waves. I'm like, nah, I'm just going to pull into I was like, I'm going to pull into this cove, and the buddy that's following me is like, hey, I'm going to go into this one. You go into this one. It's interesting because the watercolor up there I thought would be dirtier. I mean, it's dirty, but it's not. It's good. It's 2.5, 3 feet clarity up there, and we started going down some, I would call them 45-degree banks. Some banks that they're maybe staging on, but we didn't know. Like, we were like, let's hit the sunniest banks, that the banks that have had the most sun on them all day, getting warm, and buddy's throwing a spinnerbait. I'm kind of mixing in a jig and a crankbait, and we're going down, and he starts getting bit. But they're not hooking up. He's catching a few small ones, but he's getting, I mean, there's a lot of things going on. So I'm like, well, he catches a few more on the spinnerbait, and he's working me in the back of the boat, right? Which is fine. Like, I love it. He's catching fish, but he is working me over. And I'm like, you're going to make me do it. You're going to make me put on the spinnerbait. Yep. And I get down in the middle. I literally get down in the middle of my boat, and I'm like, okay, what spinnerbait am I going to tie on? And I look up on my deck, and I've got a 6-inch mag draft, which I'll pull up if it's okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, and I'm going to try to show this to you guys. Here, let's see if you can see this. But that's just your.
If you,
can you guys see that?
Move it over a little bit.
If you bring it over to your over left a little bit.
And a little bit back.
Back a little
bit back.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Perfect, right there.
Okay. So that's your
okay.
6-inch mag draft. And I saw it up there, and I'm like, man, it's 55 degrees. The watercolor is good. I'm just going to, instead of, he's throwing a spinnerbait, let him do that. Let him have the success, and maybe they'll eat this thing. I make the first cast, and we've all done this. Like, we're trying to angle the bank, and I throw out, and instead of, like, being by the bank, like, I overthrow it, and it's 10 feet from the bank. And you're like, that's a wasted cast. So I just let it kind of sink, right? Like,
yep.
And I start reeling it, and all of a sudden, 5 cranks, and it's donk, right? And it's a 4.5 pounder.
Oh.
And I'm like, wait, hold on. What just happened?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, that would have probably cashed a check in the big bass bash.
Yeah.
And that's where my head was. I'm like, okay, well, this was going to be about throwing big baits. And I just knew, like, I'm not going to force the issue. I'm going to go try to get some. This bait's not big. I mean, for anybody that throws this bait, I mean, they eat this size of gizzard shad, threadfin shad all day long. But they got to be in the mood for it. So we keep going down the bank, And then I hook up with another one that felt really good. Unfortunately, it popped. It came off. Okay. But he was still catching them behind me on that spinnerbait. So we had a limit. Our limit probably weighed, at the end of the day, 12 pounds. So not a big limit for down here. But on tough conditions, I would say that I was really happy for what we did. But I feel like in terms of how this lake is setting up with the weather that's upcoming, which we're going to start to get out of this funk, if you will, I think tomorrow, like I'm super excited. I'm going to go out tomorrow. I'm really excited about tomorrow. I think it's starting to turn on, and you're going to start to see that dirtier colored water that's warming up and those fish starting to come up to the banks. And that's going to happen all throughout the week before Saturday and Sunday hit, which like it may confuse some people, but if it were me, I would start to think about that stained water and chasing some of that stained water, because when you get down by the dam, it gets crazy clear. They haven't been generating water here like they typically do. Truman that flows into Lake of the Ozarks, right, is typically like holds a lot of those heavy spring rains back. They just have not been putting a lot of water into this lake. We just haven't had a lot of rain. So the lower end is super clear. Like Table Rock, Bull Shoals clear. Like I was seeing 8 to 10 feet clarity in the gravelly arm. It's not to say you can't catch them. Right. It's just a different style of fishing. But I think like for those big fish, they're about to come up to the bank. They're starting to feel that warmth and come up. So it'll be interesting how tomorrow goes.
So I feel like we need to get down there. That's my kind of fishing. We fish, clay bottom lakes. That it's never clear.
Yeah.
I mean, you're lucky to see a foot and a half.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm used to.
Yeah, and it makes it difficult when you're dealing with temperatures, at least for me. I don't want to speak for everybody because there's guys down here that can catch them. It doesn't matter when it is. But for me, when I see cold, below 50-degree water, and I can't see my bait a foot below, like I feel like I need to get out of there and go do some other things. But when that sun is hitting on those banks and those fish start to move up, like it can be magical. And you see a ton of boats, even like during the week, that are running up this Grand Glaze arm. And I think they're just checking, like, is it happening yet? And they'll go run some banks they know. And they'll go throw their baits and they'll figure it out like, okay, it's not ready yet, but they'll continue to check it throughout the day. Like, can it turn on? So absolutely. I think it's close. And I think the people that are going to come down here and fish the Big Bass Bash are in for a real treat. I think they're going to catch a lot of fish. I think it's about ready to do it. And this cold front really pushed them off.
What temp swings were you seeing as you were cruising around? Anything that stood out, or was it just generically cold because of the cold fronts coming through and all the cold water rain?
From a water temperature?
Yeah.
Dave, is that what you're... Yeah. So from a water temperature standpoint, it was pretty consistent. I didn't find much under 50 degrees. It was all hovering in that kind of 50 to 55. And as the day went on, right, they would raise. It's interesting. There's a cove out here. I haven't even fished it yet. And there hasn't been much caught out of it. But for some reason, it's reading 65 on everybody's. It's up here in the Grand Glaze.
Yeah.
Not like and we're staying at Robin's Resort. It's not far, like you just go around the bend, but they found 65-degree water.
Interesting.
So a 10-degree difference in that one pocket. And you would think that, things would be working a little bit different back there, but it's not like they had been going in there and crushing them. So
yeah. Very interesting. So,
but what I heard was look for some of that stained water, that dirtier water, and look for those banks that get hit by the sun all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, like that seems to be the ticket. Now, the banks that we were getting a lot of bites on this afternoon in that window, they were your steeper banks.
Okay.
They were your kind of 45-degree boat sitting in, call it 20 feet of water, and you're throwing up, you're not paralleling it, if you will, but you're trying to give each other the best chance. And that's another thing too. When you got a buddy in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to go down, it'd be easier if you're going down by yourself. And just trying to parallel and just get it in the right spot. But we were just throwing it, at a 45-degree angle, and they seemed to be on that steeper stuff. But most of our bites came from the banks that had that sun on them all day.
Oh yeah, I know all about having a buddy on the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Being the only one with the boat, I have multiple of those dipshits on the back of my boat trying to cast, saying, "Take me over here, take me over here, put me here." I'm like, hey, leave me alone. Let me
never tell you where to go. I'm always a go with the flow kind of guy, but I don't do any of the work to move the boat. I'll own that. But
yeah,
that is very true. I'm up there. I have to run the trolling motor the whole time. And you just got to sit off the back and fish.
God,
yeah. I used to be that back boater. Like that's where. I've loved bass fishing since I was a little kid, right? But as a little kid, you're always a back boater and fished on the Mississippi River. But I really wanted to be like my whole life, and the dream of being a bass master, right? And then life and family and all that gets in the way. But I still have a passion for it. But I started in a bass club as a co-angler, right? Like as the back seater.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from that experience. I thought I knew a lot, but you go out with these guys and they're putting you on stuff and you're like trying not to tangle up and do something stupid in the boat. I'm sure I did plenty of stuff like that, but I went and got my first skeeter and I realized that now I have to go out and find the fish. Right. I don't rely on the guy that's driving me around to put me on the spots. And I went out there and I struggled.
Yeah.
Right. Like I did. Like I was like, oh, okay. Like this is what I think's going on. Then I go out there and and then you start to question like what's happening.
Right.
So I see a lot of my buddies in the back of the boat, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I just want everybody to catch fish. Like it's cool to see the experience of somebody that's in the back being like, and I kept telling his name's Rob. I'm like, you are absolutely lighting me up with that spinnerbait. Like just, but like that happens at times, right?
Oh yeah.
But he had a great day in the water, so it's cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. 2 years ago, we were down in Shelbyville on our annual trip, and we brought a buddy of ours, not a big fisherman. It was a slow day. Suddenly he pulls in a walleye.
Yeah.
On a spinner, on a bass spinner. Just
on a spinner.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he got it into the boat and didn't have his line cut.
Yeah. And he was so proficient at fishing enough to be using a catfish rod setup with a white like Colorado blade spinner.
Yeah.
Like just not no chartreuse. There's a blue flag. It was just white. And he's catching walleye.
Yep.
Just if it's hungry, it's going to eat, I guess,
But then they fall in love with it. Like that's the thing that I love to see is the people that like dabble. They may have picked up a rod when they were little, and they go out and they have a day like that, and they figured it out. Like it's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, because it changes your. I don't know. There's something about being in the outdoors. We all get that. Like we love it. We love to relax and do that. But when you see somebody pull a fish in that they did it all by themselves, they picked out the lure, they threw the cast, they reeled it in, and next thing you know, they've got a fish in their hands. And it's for some, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of the people that we hang out with, it's magical. And I never that bite, the trying to fool this green fish or brown fish to bite, like something does it from an adrenaline standpoint that some people don't get and some people really do get. And to somehow introduce somebody to that and it just flips. Like there's guys here on this trip that started fishing, like literally fishing like 5 years ago, and we're all in our 40s or 50s, and they have gone full blown brand new skeeter, brand new mega bass, brand new rods and reels, because they took that hit, if you will, and now they're completely addicted, and we get that as fishermen.
Oh yeah.
The speed my heart starts racing every time I feel that bump.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
It's the same as it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Especially the first one of the year.
It's still the same adrenaline rush. Yeah, that
Right.
which
yeah,
was today.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, everybody, Tim caught his first fish of the year today. So, hey, Timmy. Woo.
Let's go.
Whoop. We lost you, which is a perfect segue because it's starting to get real. Like the sun's going down behind you. It's starting to get really dark.
Yeah. Should I change?
No, I think we're at a good spot. You know, we got some good info out there for anyone watching.
Oh, hey, take two, strike two.
Take two. Sorry, guys.
Strike.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure having you on, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, just, and again, you know, we're here with Ryan, catching leadership. You just heard, you know, what to start throwing down at Lake of the Ozarks for the Big Bass Bash if you want the biggest bass. So.
For sure. And tomorrow will be, I did throw the glide today, but it was fruitless. But I threw the swim bait and they bit the swim bait. I got 2 to bite it. So I know it's only going to start getting better.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
All right, close it out and give me a cheers, boys.
Thank you again, Ryan, for jumping on.
All right, boys.
Hey,
one last
go knock them dead tomorrow.
Hey,
we'll
really appreciate your time, man.
Oh, thank you for your time, and go enjoy your fish tacos.
All right.
See ya.
We'll see you, boys. All right.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching. You can find more content like this at fishmoregooder.com.